Welcome to Austin Eras, the podcast that unravels Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and explores its potential future. Brought to you by Collective Advisors, Austin Eras takes you on a journey through the city's evolving landscape and rich history, offering insights into its dynamic past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm excited to have two guests today, Kendall and John Antonellis. Welcome to the show.
So good to be here.
Yeah.
I want to tell people a little bit about you before we get started. So Kendall and John Antonellis, they're the co-founders of Antonellis Cheese Shop in Austin Staple since 2010. Their business grew from a shared love of food, travel, and community, and has expanded from a retail storefront in Hyde Park to multiple lines of business, including wholesale, events, classes, and virtual tastings. Kendall is a passionate mental health advocate known for her 2020 Women's March speech, and John is a CPA turned cheesemonger whose joint TEDx talk in 2018 with Kendall, called Passion with a Purpose, reflects their ethos of joyful, intentional entrepreneurship. And I just have to say, I did watch the Capital One commercial before we got started, Capital One Spark. I remember those on TV. You guys were on for a long time, and my uncle...
18 months, yeah.
That's a long time.
Well, their longest running commercial, apparently, at that time.
There was something about that commercial that I think struck a nerve with people. I think just the joy and the excitement and the true passion you had for your company. It wasn't even about the cheese, but I think it was both. My uncle Kevin Flagg in West Des Moines, Iowa was like, hey, do you know the Antonellis? So, I mean, there's people all over the country that have seen that commercial. So
we had to hire somebody full-time to answer the phones just so that when people called and said, is this a real business? Yes. Hi, this is the Antonellis. Okay, fine, bye. And they'd hang up and be like,
that was it?
Well, feel free to also buy something now that we're employing a full-time person to answer the phone. But yeah, it was a great experience and they were great partners.
Amazing. It was amazing.
I think the interesting part is you guys have really carved out a name, a niche in something that is rare, right? A cheese shop is not a common thing. You guys are the cheese shop for Austin.
Thanks. That's what we like to,
That's awesome.
If you say so.
Yeah, well, it must be true.
When we opened in 2010, there was no other cheese shop at the time. There have been a couple others to come on the scene and go out or pivot and do other things. I think they realized quickly that it was really hard to make money in cheese. But we keep tweaking and pivoting every year to stay relevant and viable and, be passionate about what we do, but also give the people something they want. And so that's kept us around.
The idea of a cheese shop is not uncommon across the world.
No.
Right? Historically, that's how you got your cheese, was from a small shop like ours. And in Texas, when we first opened, most people didn't have any idea what a cheese shop was. I remember that most of the customers walking in and be like, what is this? What is happening here? And we'd give them a bite of cheese and they'd become a fan. And so it's it took a while to kind of generate that acceptance of the cheese
We felt
shop.
like we'd really made it, not when children walked into the shop and they were like, ooh, it stinks, and walked out, but when we'd get an adult who'd walk in and go, I can't take it, it smells too much. Then we were like, we did it.
You did it.
Yes.
Quality.
It no longer smells like fresh paint. It now smells like stinky cheese.
Now, you guys kind of have an interesting backstory. So we always like to go through the past, the present, the future for our guests. And you didn't start out in Austin, neither of you. And one of you not even in Texas. So tell me a little bit about how you got to Austin and how you met.
You want to take this, Texan?
I always take it. Let's see what you say, Yankee.
All right, fantastic. So I grew up in New York, outside of New York City, 18 years there with my family. And I followed my brother to Georgetown. He was 2 years older than me, and he had gotten in, and I really then wanted to go. And I got in. Got to travel and spend. I basically moved to DC, got internships. I never went back to New York full time. And over the course of my time there, I got really involved on campus in very different ways. And one of those particular activities was I got elected as the chairman of the board of the Corp, the largest student-run company in the country at the time. And this organization ran grocery stores, coffee shops, at the time of film development. This was
movie rentals
when people still had DVD players and such. And I got elected as the chairman of the board. So my job was to represent the students, the company's name, Students of Georgetown Incorporated. And our job was to serve the students. So that was my job. And I happened to meet this really amazing young woman
Yeah,
You can tell her story now.
I'm just a small town girl. No, I was born in Houston, but parents split and raised in a little area called Cool, Texas. It's 45 minutes west of Fort Worth, in between Weatherford and Mineral Wells. And grew up, yes, I rodeoed. I showed sheep and lambs, traveled an hour one way to go to a private school.
Oh, I didn't do any of those things.
Well, I told you, when I tell a story, I start at my conception.
that's fine.
All right. So, but it really, I wanted to go to Georgetown University because I wanted to be in international relations, thought I wanted to be a diplomat, and I went for the School of Foreign Service. And yes, while I was at Georgetown as well, I had a pretty rough college life. My mom got cancer, which she survived. My grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and declined quickly, and my father passed away. And I'm sure those will all come up in some form of this later on because they've clearly had a big impact in my life. But one of the ways I really needed to get myself out of my bubble and create community was that I applied to work at the Students of Georgetown Incorporated, the Corp. And I just started out as a cashier, and it was kind of like my beer money. Whatever tips I made, I was going to go use it that weekend. And then eventually became the vice president of grocery of the two Vital Vittles and Hoya Snacksa. And it really was our community because all of our friends were the chairman, the president, the CEO, the treasurer, everything all the way down. And so it was great to be a part of that. Those are still our best friends to this day, even though we're horrible friends at keeping in touch. But when we're with you, we're 100% with you. They would all be like, oh yeah, we haven't heard from them in a while. We're not good on the phone. That's where John and I met. And then, so I think both the entrepreneurism, that was at the beginning of our relationship from the beginning right there. And John, he won all these like Mr. Georgetown Awards, Joe Hoya, just for all these things he started and initiated on campus, like Hoya-palooza and Saxapalooza, showcasing student arts and musicians and talent. And you got fan of the game at your first basketball game, right? Like Braveheart style. He still has that flag and brings it out.
I would keep it too. That sounds fun.
So it was awesome. It was an epic day for me as a freshman. Yeah.
But that was kind of our background, and you went into consulting. I realized diplomacy was not the route I wanted because I needed a little more hands-on. So I went into the nonprofit sector. We stayed in DC a year, and actually we started dating our senior year, and I think it worked because there was no plans. We never labeled it. It was like, hey, we got 4 months left till we're out of here. Let's just have a good time. And 4 months came and went, and we were like, oh, we're not ready to let go of this. So we stayed together, just seeing where it would go. And then I said, hey, I think I got to move back to Texas to be closer to my family. We've had a lot of rough stuff go on. And I guess I'll go get my graduate degree from UT. And John said, well, can I go with you? And had never stepped foot in Texas. And so that's the pre-story.
Well, culture shock, huh?
Yeah, that was awesome. I was grateful to just be with her. I didn't care where.
Yeah.
No big deal. I mean, my first night here, I got queso and purple margaritas at Baby A's on Barton. I mean,
it's classic.
That's a welcome party of epic proportions.
We still don't know what are in those purple margaritas, but yeah, that's fine.
Food coloring, right? Yeah, well, maybe.
Could be. I don't know. It was wonderful.
All the leftover alcohol from the night before.
My stint here in Austin.
So you guys moved here mid-aughts or late-aughts?
05.
05? Okay, so you moved here fresh to Austin. You guys are checking out the food scene, but where's cheese in this equation? Like, does cheese ever come up in your lifetime before you really become a cheesemonger and go really deep here?
I pride myself on eating things.
Okay.
And
tell them snack time.
Yeah, that was my nickname in high school from the athletic director, not from like my friends. But coming to Austin, when we first were, right out of college, basically living on the types of salaries that we were getting, we were not eating fancy. This was eating sustenance. This was El Arroyo kind of meals regularly, and hanging out on 6th Street when the time came at nights and weekends. And it was a very different time for us. But cheese, didn't really play a role at the time. For me, at least. I liked eating grilled cheese sandwiches. I would get cheese on I loved queso. So,
you do have some stories here that, like, in high school, you ran the grilled cheese club with your cross-country buddies, right? Yep. For extra credit in the library.
That's right.
Your parents would find you eating off the block of Velveeta at nighttime. Yes. I mean, we don't necessarily call that cheese anymore, but so you have a history with cheese, but it's not like you grew up on bougie cheese.
No,
yeah.
Definitely not bougie cheese.
Yeah, I didn't either for that matter. But cheese doesn't play a role that way. But then later your
passion for food, kind of the idea of that grilled cheese club coming back gave me some inspiration to, potentially try something. But that's jumping ahead because we haven't even gotten married yet in this story tale. That's a great
part
of it.
So what happens? You get here in 2005. Life progresses. You've been dating for a year, something like that. He comes to Texas with you, Kendall. Then what?
Well, you tried to get a job. You actually were like looking at when you had most passion in your life. And it was when you were planning all these events and bringing all these people together and kind of like just celebrating life, to be really cliche about it. But that was like where you felt you could work endlessly without getting tired. And so you were looking for a job like that. But you got turned down everywhere you applied. And so you went back and said to Deloitte, which is a great company, and they had given you your college internships, hey, could I get a job with you? And you ended up back in auditing again. And we're grateful for it. It paid the bills, but also was not what struck. I don't know why I'm telling your story, but yeah, I do. I like to talk. But it didn't fill your cup.
No, it didn't.
And I like to say, for anybody who knows John, like, no one puts baby in the corner, all right? And in your auditing, you get stuck in a lot of closets, and people don't like you, and you're a people pleaser, and you want to be liked. And so throughout that time, you knew that it was temporary, but you got stuck there for a while, because it was what paid the bills.
Exactly.
And I went to grad school, and I got out and worked at a nonprofit here locally called American Gateways. It was Political Asylum Project at the time, PAPA. I ran the family-based immigration and then moved into Immigrant Victims of Crime Protection Project. So I helped immigrant victims of crime like human trafficking and sexual assault with their immigration cases. Loved what I did. We're still on the leadership council today of American Gateways. They do great work. But then, I started feeling fatigued. I was experiencing a lot of secondary trauma, and I say that with that, knowing that many of the people I worked with, my colleagues, are still there to this day and like doing the hard work. And so it kind of came to, all right, maybe I need to take a pause, but I wasn't quite there yet. And then we get married, and we're on our honeymoon, and we're in Grenada in the Caribbean. It is a small island, y'all. It is not known for cheese and nutmeg and allspice and seafood. But we're sitting there on the beach on day 2, and I'm reading some horrible romantic book, and John is reading Isaac Asimov. Thank you.
Foundation series, great book.
And so he's having this like moment.
I was having an existential moment. I enjoyed the people at Deloitte. Some of them still my best friends, but the work itself was unfulfilling for me. And so I leaned over to Kendall and told her I was going to quit my job when we got home. And she leaned back and said, "So, and what are you going to do?" I said, "Something in cheese."
Something in cheese.
Literally, that all happened. But people are like, "But really, what happened?" We're like, "That's how it happened." But I do remember John saying, "Nobody likes me as an auditor. Everybody loves cheese. I just want to make people happy." But it was really about, again, seeking fun and joy in your life, which I would say.
Spreading joy has been a mantra of ours now for over a decade.
Yeah. Right? And you said, well, I can go back and get an MBA and come out of school with a lot of debt and try to write a business plan. Or I actually think if you give me 2 years, I can write my own business plan and just put that money straight into a business. And so I said, okay, go. You're cute. You do you. At the time, we didn't have children. We got to be a little bit more footloose and fancy free. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. But really, then it was that fast forward to later when there's a pivotal moment, and we're sitting on the couch at my house, and my mom, who is an entrepreneur and has run 3 companies in her life, we're all sitting there, and she's already like, "Kendall, when is he going to do it? Like, when?" And I'm like, "I don't know when he's going to do it." And we're drinking a little wine. And how does it come about? But you said to her, I don't know when to go. I can never be. You were in this rut of trying to be over-prepared and being perfect and reading every single thing about cheese and starting business and everything you could. You had done internships. You were at Kirby Lane. You went and interned in France with Raymond's. It was just, I need to soak up all I can. But there's a moment of be prepared, but you can always still be doing more. And at some point, you just got to act.
You jump out of the plane.
Exactly. Without the parachute, and you build it on the way down, right? And so he turned to my mom and said, "I'm just scared. This is risky, and I don't want to put your daughters and our livelihood on the line." And my mom said back, "Business is risk, John." And anyway, I crawled into the couch a little bit more, but to this day, they're best friends. My mom's been one of our best business advisors. Yeah. But that moment was like, hey, why don't I come aboard? What if we do this together? I need a little break. I grew up, my parents are still cattle ranchers in the agricultural life, and I can speak to the labor of love that goes into our agricultural artisanal products. And then we thought through, what does the business look like? And well, wait, there's no cheese shops in Austin. Well, hey, that's cute. What if we just open a little cheese shop and we'll just be this little mom and pop and cut the cheese every day, and that'll be easy breezy. And after a couple of years, we'll go back to our grown-up jobs. And yeah, here we are 15 years later.
15 years later, and we've been doing it side by side since day one.
Happy 15 years.
And
right?
it was never easy breezy. Not a day one of that 15 years.
There was 2 days.
Okay.
It was pretty amazing. But yeah, we've been very blessed to get to do this together.
What's that ride been like for 15 years doing this? What have you learned along the ways, and what did you think you knew when you were all ultra prepared, and what did you not actually know?
I would say we learned more in the first 6 weeks of running the shop than I had the previous 2 years. There's no question when you're put under pressure, everything comes together. And so some of the best moments for Kendall and I have been when we've been under the gun, and all of a sudden we adapt very quickly to the new situation, the new reality, and make something beautiful out of it.
That's probably not good for our blood pressure, but we work really well under pressure.
Under pressure.
Isn't
and
that
so
how diamonds are made, right?
I was gonna make a diamond reference, but I didn't want to come across as being not humbled rather.
Okay.
But yeah, that's put a lot of pressure on, and it turns into a diamond. But we, over the years, there's like any relationship, a relationship with your own business, you have really great times, and then you have really challenging times that you have to work through. And as long as you're committed and you're doing something that you love, you can get over those speed bumps, those hurdles, those challenges. And so you got to be prepared for that. That's why our TED Talk that we do is passion with purpose, and it's one of our core principles, because without passion, you don't have enough energy to move forward. And without purpose, you don't have a good place to direct any of that passion. And so opening a small business, it's not easy. I don't know who would tell you that it's easy. If you talk to a small business owner, there's tough days, there's good days, it's all blending. But at the end of the day, if you have passion for it and there's purpose behind it, those little hurdles don't resonate, leave a long wake.
Yeah, I like to always say passion is why I jump out of the bed in the morning, because I'm excited to go get it. Purpose is why somebody's going to pay me to do it. What's the greater good? Am I filling a niche? Why does it all matter?
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I mean, some of it, to be more specific, like we're people. I thought we'd be great managers. I sucked as an early manager. If I could go back, I really would redo some of those. So it turns out being a people person, in fact, probably makes you a bad manager. Just the need to be liked and to not be direct. And so to this day, any entrepreneur I talk to who is growing a team, you think about everything else. You don't think about the people aspect, because that part, honestly, we didn't think we'd grow as quickly as we did. So we weren't even ready for that. And there were moments where we were back scrambling to build HR manuals and, oh my God, we need a vacation and sick policy, because we just thought it was going to be the two of us. So a lot of that, to this day, anytime I hear of an entrepreneur, HR is their hardest thing. And it's because people, your business is your people. It's the most important asset we have. And at the same time, we're all complex beings with different needs. And we even say when somebody parts ways with us, like, hey, we're glad we could do what we could for you in the time you're with us, and go do what you need to do for you, But then again, that's easier to say now 15 years in. Probably the first couple times I was like, how dare they break up with me? So just the people has always been the hardest part of it. And especially if you want to do right by them, and and it's getting, the other part of it is, I want to say that the last few years have been hardest, but I think I just have rosy eyes, and that every year has different challenges. For instance, everybody's asking us right now how the tariffs are going to impact us.
Sure.
And to me, it just feels like the latest flavor of the month and what's hard in entrepreneurship. So there's always something, and that's just where we're putting our energies now. And John and I have kind of maybe it's not a laissez-faire spirit, but it's like, hey, well, anytime a problem comes up, we'll throw everything we have at it, and it's either going to be good enough and we'll survive it, or it's not, and then we won't. So when you look at it that way, it kind of takes out some of the, tomorrow we're going to wake up one way or the other, and if we don't wake up, then we don't have anything to worry about. So there's that attitude to it.
Good perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit about when you were talking about building your business. Sounded like building a marriage at the same time. There's challenges, there's things you go through, and you go through them together. And you're the first ever married couple to be on the Antonellis podcast. But what's that like working with your spouse? I think that most people don't ever get that experience. And I'd love to kind of get inside baseball here a little bit about what it's like running a cheese shop together.
I will say I love it. Absolutely love it. In my time after Deloitte and before we opened, my favorite part of the day would be having lunch with Kendall. I'd wait outside her office for 20 minutes because it depended on when she got out of meetings, and then she'd hop in the car and we'd go. So for us, the worst part of our day now is when we have to take 2 separate cars.
We're kind of gross.
It's
My
not
mom is
gross.
like, I
It's
raised
not-
you to be a strong, independent woman. What happened to you? And I'm like, I am. No, I'm not. Honey, where are you? But I think we've realized instead of being a weakness, it's one of our greatest assets is our being together and our teamwork. I will say, going back to how you said that the business is like a marriage, there have been some really rough years in 2018 when we opened a spin-off concept in Fairground, and it failed drastically, some of it within our control, some without it. John later ended up in depression and anxiety because of it and had some PTSD. There was a phase where it was like, do we just have to walk away for our health? And I said, honey, I remember using this language. I was like, we have to find a way. We got to date it. We got to date the business again. Right now, we don't like it. And we need to, though, like marriage counseling, put in the work. Get back to a point where we can try to make a non-emotional decision and see if we can fall back in love. So again, we've never had to do that in our coupledom together. Well, I guess that's a lie, meaning you have, hot and less hot times in a 22-year coupledom. Excuse me, podcast people. But just meaning there's always times when you need to intentionally put your resources towards it. And so I remember saying that with the business, like, we are not in love with this business right now. Let's see if we can fall back in love with it. And we have. To John's point, a lot of people who are in business together, family-run businesses, I've done a couple talks on this. They either get that way because resources dictate it, and especially in the dairy and the agricultural world, like, there's a reason some places have a lot of kids, and it's because that's your free labor to help on the farm, and everybody's pitching in. Or that somebody's accountant left, and their wife is really good at that, so the wife is going to be the bookkeeper. For us, we remind ourselves every day that we chose this. So this wasn't out of necessity. This was a choice for us to be together as much as we can. And to that point, we love it. And that's the hard part about thinking whatever comes post-cheese, whatever that world looks like, is what we still hope it's side by side and hand in hand.
Well, tell me about your operations now. I know you have the Hyde Park, the original location. You've also opened something over on Lamar. Is that right?
Yeah, so the total business is comprised of the Hyde Park shop that we've opened in 2010. 2011, we bought a 110-year-old cheese house. I guess it's 100 years old at the time.
We've been saying 110 as long as we've owned it, but
now it's 115.
Okay, there you go.
The number keeps going up every year, apparently.
Add two for every year. Yeah.
We acquired it and turned it into an event space. We had been teaching classes for 6 people in the front of the cheese shop at a little picnic table, and this allowed us to expand to 16 people, then to 24 people, and now it's amazing. And then in 2018, we opened and closed that concept in South Austin. In 2018, we moved into a warehouse where we do our wholesale and shipping from.
Yeah, we ship our cheese club nationally out of there.
Nationwide. And then in 2021, we added more square footage to our retail shop in the back to do more tray business.
First on-demand artisanal cheese trays in the city.
Same day cheese trays. Walk in and get a cheese tray today, y'all. And then this last year in 2023, the morning of the big freeze, well, let's say the day before, I was on the roof at our warehouse fighting with our generator, our backup
that
generator.
we installed the year before because we didn't have one
During
and lost
the
all
previous
power.
freeze.
And you lost a lot of cheese?
And guess
We did
what?
not.
The generator didn't work the next year.
And I had
and you fell off and broke your toe.
No, I had already had a broken toe from 2 nights before. And I woke up.
Entrepreneurship, y'all.
It was frustrating for me. And the next morning when I woke up, I decided at 4 a.m, I decided to rewrite the business plan, the vision for the company. And in that, what we looked at, or I looked at, and then Kendall came in and helped me with, was what is it that we love so much about this company? What resonates with our customers so deeply and impactfully, and where can we spread the most joy? And so we designed what has now become our new tasting room concept, which we opened on South Lamar last April, around that. And so it's an event space. So we share it. We host about 400 events a year there.
Wow.
It seats up to 32 people, combination of public events and workshops. We make mozzarella and burrata classes now.
Butter.
I love that.
Oh, mozzarella and butter. What did I say?
Burrata coming soon.
Burrata's not coming soon, for the record. Those of you listening.
Our team who's like, Kendall, John, we are visionary entrepreneurs. And so we're we're going to come up with 100 ideas a day. And their job is to say 99 are crap and just do one. But
butter and burrata are
I
close.
share that. Yeah, I share that concept.
Yeah. And then we do we do private events there all throughout the week. Community groups can use it at a discounted
our charitable
rate.
cheese causes.
And then we do trays from that location. So it's been really great. It's right in the same complex as the Alamo Draft House on Sophomore.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
And I think in that process, we realized that when we started, it was about linking consumers with producers and the foods they eat and telling the story of artisanal food. That is still there at the heart of what we do, but that's the what we do, not the why we do it anymore. The why we do it, we found, is that cheese brings people together, as cheesy as it sounds, y'all. But it's a cheese tasting for us has become the proverbial breaking of bread, if you will. And so if you come to a cheese tasting, it's people just don't know what to expect, but it's kind of like dinner and a show, but it's a 2-hour event where you sit down in a room with 30 other people, and our hosts, our cheesemongers, come out and guide you through the stories of how cheese is made, what makes these specific. We talk through sensory evaluations of food and the 5 tastes of sweet, salt, bitter, sour, and umami. You're also getting pickles and honeys and jams and single origin bean to bar chocolates, which if you don't know what that means, come to cheese class. We'll talk about it. Okay. But really, it's this whole wraparound experience. And we realize that our number one goal now isn't about the cheese gospel. Instead, it's really life is hard outside those doors, and it's just showing people a good time, giving a reason to come together despite any of our differences. And then if somebody learns something around the way, then great. Yeah.
So it sounds like your business has evolved a lot in 15 years. You're doing a lot of interesting things at this moment. And I'm sure that your business has grown in different ways with different employees and people that have been with you for periods of time. But how do you think your relationship, the two of you, shows up in your business culture? How does a marriage reflect on the business culture?
Interesting. I'm trying to think of what our team members would say. I mean, this is not answering what you said, but John and I finally realized we think we work well together because we have the same or similar values and ethics, but contrasting or complementary skill sets. So we always joke that John does the numbers, I do the words. But in that sense, we have a same vision or goal for where we want to go, and then different things we bring to the table of how we get there, and we try to stay in each other's lane. Now, I think we probably think we do a better job of that. And then our team, we're looking at each other talking about this, y'all. And then our team, when we first hired people, I remember saying, by the way, if you have a problem seeing us kiss, we're going to kiss, because that's what we do. And now we're like, maybe we shouldn't kiss so much at work. So some things we've matured about.
I would say, though, I think you were spot on with the similar values. So the core values of the company come from our relationship, from our past history. And that's what really resonates with the people that we hire and the people that stay. Because the core values of one of them is family first, then business. Right. And that comes from a married couple, because to us, family is everything. And so that resonates all the way through the company, and everybody knows why. And so if you need to go home and take care of however you define family, that's what you get to do in our kind of company. And with no questions. And so I think that's some of the benefit of it. What's tricky is that on the other side, Kendall and I never stop talking because we're always together. Mm-hmm. And so if we have a meeting with a team member on Monday, by Tuesday, we might be 100 yards in a different direction. And so that could be difficult for sure.
And they're like, wait, you just decided yesterday. And we're like, oh, wait, you weren't at home in the bathtub when we made all these other decisions?
And so you have to manage some of those things for sure. But it does trickle through for sure.
I watched your TEDx talk, and one of the things you asked was, when are you at your best?
Yeah.
So I think my question is really, what's the secret of keeping your joy in your work, and even when it's hard? Because I know you've been through some challenges. Sounds like there's been some tough things, but when are you guys at your best?
It's a great question. And that comes from my time at Georgetown. When I was at Deloitte, I was tired every day, right? And I was working 12-hour days, but when I was at Georgetown, I was working 16-hour days and partying. Hanging out with friends, right? And so I was doing way more And just a few years later, I didn't have that anymore. So thinking when you're at your best. So for Kendall and I, we're at our best when we're together, when we're talking.
I like to eat.
When we're eating. Those are our kind of three places that we're the best. And so trying to keep that in mind. For sure, in business and small business in particular, there are definitely times where you are responsible for doing something that is an adaptation. It's not something that you're naturally born to do, but it has to get done. And that could be a trying time. And so you need to then balance it with whether it's outside of work, or when we talk about passion with purpose, it doesn't mean you have to go like quit your job, but you can start a nonprofit sort of initiative within the workspace so that you do have something that you're really excited about every day, even if it's only 10 minutes of your work a day.
Or start your company's women's group, or whatever passion you have, you can still bring your passions and purpose into the workplace that you have. Yeah. And if your work culture doesn't support that, then I would say long-term, maybe that's not the place, the right fit.
Excellent. All right. I am going to take us to a break. I think we've covered a lot already. Thank you for both the stories and the laughter. We'll take a quick pause. I'm going to have individual questions for each of you. Then we'll talk about the future, where you think Antonellis Cheese Shop is going.
In every episode of Austin Eras, we explore the layers of Austin's history, its vibrant present, and its exciting future. Just like our city, your financial journey is a rich tapestry, woven with moments that define you. At Collective Advisors, led by Adam Flagg, Managing Partner, Senior Wealth Advisor, and Certified Financial Planner Professional, your financial story is in skilled hands. We understand that your financial needs are as unique as Austin's skyline. And much like the city's history, innovation is at the heart of what we do. Whether it's investment management, retirement planning, or navigating life's transitions, Adam and his team leverage a collective of dependable professionals to support your financial journey. Their goal is to help you build, maintain, and enjoy financial security. To start crafting your financial legacy with a team that's as dynamic and innovative as Austin itself, visit collectiveadvisors.com or call 512-467-1923.
And welcome back to the Austin Eras podcast. We're joined by John and Kendall Antonelli of the Antonellis Cheese Shop, the famous Antonellis Cheese Shop, iconic here in Austin.
Wow, yeah, thank you. Thanks to all the listeners out there today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them are fans, or they're about to be fans. So I'd love to talk to each of you a little bit about what's driven you kind of individually along the way. Kendall, one of the things I did is I went to your website, looked around. You have your own website just about you and how you do things. And
Excuse me.
I watched the video of you at the Women's March in 2020. And that was really, really inspiring and really amazing. You gave a powerful speech about mental health. Why did you decide to do that? And what was that like, sharing that on such a big stage?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Okay, first of all, when you're like, you have your own website, when the Capital One commercial launched, so before the pandemic, John and I, and we counted up in 2 years, I did 55 speaking engagements at little things, big things. And we thought, here's where all my time is going. We're not all that profitable. Maybe we should monetize this in certain ways. So we kind of went out on the professional speaking trail. Then the pandemic hit. But then when we got the Capital One opportunity and we were all these impressions, we got over 11 billion impressions from that commercial.
13
Somebody
billion.
advised us, you should quickly have your own pages. So we threw together some website pages like, this is who Kendall and John is, just in case there was any low-hanging fruit there to catch. So yes, that's where the birth of that came to be. Yeah, mental health. I spoke earlier about how college was pretty tough, and the anniversary of my father's death, my junior year, was actually the night that John and I had been flirting, and John said it was this big formal dance and he was going to make his move that night.
I was going to try to kiss her that night. That was my goal. I was walking to this party.
This is my question to answer.
Oh, you were so awesome.
Anyway, that one is its own story, but I ended up in the psychiatric unit that night, and I was in Georgetown University Hospital for 2 weeks. Well, actually, I got let out early on good behavior. Again, people pleaser. But it was a particularly scary night, and I wasn't making good decisions for myself. And while I would like to blame it all on that night, it actually came back that I had a major severe depression diagnosis, and honestly, most likely had it on and off throughout my whole youth, even though the recent events were just the catalyst that kind of led to that challenge. Since then, in my recovery, I've been out loud and proud about it. I think mental health, what it does is it tricks us into thinking we're alone. In fact, I remember sitting in there in the hospital, and Georgetown University is a learning hospital, so I woke up the next morning and there were like 10 people staring around at me, and it was everything institutionalized that you think of when you see a movie. It was like green flickering lights, everybody's looking down at you, you look like a lab rat. Sorry, Georgetown University Hospital. And honestly, I think we have a long way to go, but we've already come a long way in mental health care. Like, we don't call those psychiatric units anymore. It's the mental health unit and things like that. So, but I remember they said, do you have a history of depression in your family? And I said, no. And my mom said, actually, and I found out that my papa, who now has allowed me to share his story, he had been hospitalized for a term. And I was like, what? I didn't know that. And instead of that being a bad thing, that was such a grounding, helpful thing to me, because I was like, it's not just me. Something's not broken in my brain. This is common. And so just knowing that there was one other person out there, I remember that feeling like a rescue line. And when I got home that summer and went through some intensive therapy, I got a dog, I got some laser hair removal. I don't know why I thought that was like part of my mental health journey, whatever. To each their own. And I remember though talking to my papa, and he's gardening. He's 97. He's still gardening to this day. It's Clark Gardens in North Texas. They started it in their backyard, and it's now a foundation that they've opened up to the public. And he is gardening, and he doesn't look up, and he goes, well, I know, Kendall, I'm Kendall. And he said, Kendall, I know, Kendall, it seems like you're in this big, dark, deep hole and you can't get out, and you're clawing. Just keep clawing. You'll get out. I now say, I know in that when you're in that deep, dark hole, there's everybody in there. You just can't see each other. So the more we can share our story, the more we can destigmatize it. Everybody's journey is their own. It's different to them. I won't ever presume to know what somebody else is going through, except to say that if we can all, those of us who have the privilege of sharing that we've been through something. To me, every time I share it, it's an ongoing part of my journey. It reminds me where I've been. So yeah, I talk about it all the time. And in fact, on our first date, John's and my first date, it was 6 months later after that dance. It was the winter formal, where I walked in and pinned him against a wall and I kissed him, y'all. Sorry, but life is short. You go for it. Thank you for those nucks, husband. But then our first date, within a few days after that, I sat him down and I was like, it was over fondue at the melting pot. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Cheese was our first date. But I said, here's everything that's wrong with me. Anybody's ever said that's wrong with me. I think that's wrong with me. And really, that was a powerful moment for me. I was clearly, quote unquote, there isn't anything wrong with me. But I was just like, let's just get it all out on the table. That way, if you want to walk away now, you can. And one, John said, all right, that's it. I think I can deal with that. But two, I took away all the power of like it, that no longer had any power over me, because I was like, well, it's not like I'm going to wait for the shoe to drop or him to find out that this happened. I was like, here's everything that's happened. Here's what I'm going through, and come join me for the ride. And in fact, later when John had his mental health challenges and breakdown, he credits the fact that I was so open about it that's where he started to know that he was going off path, and that some of the common descriptors I had used were ones like he just didn't want to get out of bed in the morning or wanted to stay and cuddle longer, which is hard because I actually like cuddling long in the bed in the morning. But I know for him, my husband gets up at lately 3:30, but 4 a.m. every day and is ready to kick the day's tushies. And so we started seeing signs for you, but it was easier to talk about because we'd always talked about it. And in fact, being open with you about my journey, like when we got pregnant, it was John who thought to ask the doctor, hey, what do I look for in signs of postpartum and this and that? Yeah. And I was like, oh, good question. I didn't even think to do that. But I had an advocate with me on my side because he knew everything about it. So I got asked to share that story. Yeah, there's nothing like peeling it back in a very public way. Yeah. I also was the chair for NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. Their annual walk is their big fundraiser. And I got to write an op-ed. And that was scary too, seeing it for the first time in print. Like, it's different talking in a closed room with people, or I can't see everybody's faces who's listening to this, versus, oh, this is out big now and loud and proud. So that was a long-winded answer to say, yeah, we're both mental health advocates. We're always learning. Anxiety hit me hard a couple years ago again, and for the first time in 20 years. So for a long time, I've been talking about it in retrospect, and now it's back in a new way. And I'm working through that, and got a therapist on the line, and looking at finding joy and grounding myself in whatever ways I can.
You had once actually dreamed of becoming a therapist. I believe I read that.
Oh, no, I didn't, Adam. I was like, I am never allowed to be a therapist.
You're like, I'm running from it.
Do you hear how much I talk? I'm not a very good listener. I like to talk a lot. I like to empathize too much. I would take on their problems as my own. Actually, multiple therapists have been like, why do you think we make good therapists? So maybe someday in the next life.
Maybe.
So I heard that you do cheese camp. I'm curious about this. Tell me more.
Yeah, every year, John and I go to the American Cheese Society. We sell all kinds of cheeses, imported cheeses, local cheeses, but we're big proponents of the American artisan cheese industry. In fact, John is past president, and I was on the board of the foundation. And every year, we all get together, and it's a new place each year. And it's really for the cheesemakers and supporting the cheesemakers, and then now the wraparound industry that supports them. We've gotten to speak many times there. We gave a keynote there. In fact, that keynote, the year we were asked to do it, was right when you were going through your mental health crisis. And 2 days before, we scrapped our talk and went on and talked about mental health and how hard it is to make margins in this industry. And we were like, here's the elephant in the room that we all, to this day, are all still talking about. I've seen like 8 cheese shops close this year. And I don't think that's uncommon. I think specialty retail, everybody's having a hard time right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Cheese Camp. We all get together. We swap war stories and tips and tactics. And really, it's just a grounding and reminding ourselves why we love what we do. We get to meet, like right now, if Dolly Parton walked in, I'd freak out. But name who is whatever the hottest actor. Sorry, T Swift. If T Swift walked in, and then Judy Shad, who started Capriel Cheese, I'd go sit with Judy Shad in a heartbeat. So it's where we get to see all of our superstars who really pave the way in the path and make some damn good cheese.
Amazing. Now, did I hear that you've been singing national anthems around Austin? I was just at an Austin FC match. I didn't see you, but apparently just recently this season?
That's right. So in this a couple years ago, got the anxiety thing.
Yeah.
John and I practice what we call life partner visioning. It's a process that maybe if you have time, you can ask John about, coming soon to a couple near you. But it's where we write down all of our hopes and dreams. We butcher paper the walls. We talk about it. And the goal really is that we can grow as individuals while growing together. I think so many people in life, when they end up splitting, or it's just that a lot of times there's nothing anybody did wrong. They just grew different ways. And so this is one way that we work to try to make sure that we're still on that same path together, while also encouraging our own personal development and growth. And we know that it's easier to do it when somebody's rooting you on. So like, oh, that's a goal of yours. How am I going to help you go get it? So when I was younger, I wanted to be a famous singer. And then, I was like, well, that's probably not going to happen. Let me go get a real job, which is when I went to be a foreign diplomat. Anyway, she's so cute.
No American Idol auditions or anything?
No, did not do that. But I was like, oh, singing brings me joy. How do I get back to it? Do I go sing in some like elderly homes? Do I join a band? What do I do? But I wrote on this goal, start singing again. A year goes by, nothing happens. John was like, Kendall, you got to write it down, but you got to be specific. So then it said, sing publicly that isn't karaoke. And then that kind of went by, and it was almost a year again. And I said, that's it. I got to do something. So I just called up ACC, and I got a vocal coach. And I'd actually met him because I got to judge Ham's Corporate Battle of the Bands.
Oh,
it's a super fun event to go to and check it out. If you like all kinds of music and not staying up super late and being at ACL Live, it was like my girlfriends are like, we're going back every year now. But I got to judge that event, American Idol style. Uh-huh. And then I met Adam Roberts, who then became my vocal coach. And I'm pretty sure that I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out there and start singing the national anthem. Why? Because we go to Austin FC all the time to the soccer games. And I was like, oh, I used to do that. That seems like the easiest way for me to get back in, which probably no one says, by the way. It's like not easy to get into.
It's like a 20,000 person stadium.
And so anyway, Adam heard me sing the national anthem 5 million times. I got out there and they said send in an audition tape, and then I thought it had to be perfect, and I was going to book a studio and record this perfect thing. And this just reminds you that progress, not perfection, right? And perfection is paralyzing. I love all those things. So I, driving home one day, was like, that's it. I think it was like December 31st. And I was like, it's a year tomorrow. I will mark this off some way. So I just sang in the car, sent it into all 3 of them. Rodeo Austin was like, okay, come sing our national anthem. Thanks to a friend there. Then Round Rock Express, at this point I had just missed their auditions, but they said come sing. For the record, I'm pretty sure it helps that both of them are cheese fans. So if anybody else is trying to do this, it might help if you own a cheese shop. But then the weirdest thing happened. I get out there at Round Rock Express, and it wasn't bad. It's on my Instagram. Go watch it. It's fine. But also, I kind of froze, and I wanted to vomit in the dugout. I'm sorry if anybody's eating while listening to this. But I love, as you can tell, I love a microphone. I love performing. I love all of these things. And all of a sudden, something that I had pursued to give me joy was causing the most anxiety. I was like, I need medication. I'm not going to make it through this. What have I done to myself? And while I'm singing it, I even started going, what words am I saying? Oh my God, I'm going to mess up. This is how people mess it up. Oh no, just keep singing, Kendall. I was not had this whole inner dialogue while I was standing on the baseball field. So after that, I went and got another coach again. Adam was busy. And so then I was like, I'm doing this to have fun. Why am I freaking out? And so really my goal for the last one, which was Austin FC, was that I leave it all on the pitch. I have a great time. It doesn't matter if I mess up. So it wasn't about what will they think of me or what is the performance. It's that, hey, I set this goal and I'm going to go out there and just have a blast. Afterwards, the cameraman gave me a high five. I fist pumped. I jumped up and down. I've since seen that the cameraman gives everybody a high five, but I'm just going to tell myself.
Good enough.
Only me.
Yeah, no.
So yes, John then we're walking away and seeing how nervous I had gotten. He was like, can we now retire this goal again? And after Round Rock, I was like, yeah, we're going to retire this. After Austin FC and 20,538, mind you, people cheering in that stadium, I was like, I want more. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, here's to dreaming, writing down those dreams and visions, and then being specific to make it happen.
Circuit of the Americas Grand Prix. What do you think?
I don't know. Actually, somebody said a UT football game. Maybe that's the next one.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be rooting for you.
All right.
John, it's on to you.
Yeah,
you got a couple solo questions.
And she can answer all of them for me.
So you're a CPA.
I sure
Keep
am.
the CPA marks. You're also CCP, which is not Communist Chinese Party.
No, that is our certified cheese professional. Kendall is also a certified cheese professional.
I heard that there's less than 1,000 in the entire world, and it's you two plus more people on your staff that you
quite
really
a
have.
few, yeah.
So we have this very focused area of CCPs just in Austin alone.
Just in Austin, yeah. We have about 8 of us on the staff of
20 full-timers.
20 full-timers. And it's really important to us that the accreditation comes through the American Cheese Society, and that's the organization that I was lucky enough to be president of. And it was the year that I was about to become president, one of our friends in the industry challenged me to take the test, and that put the pressure on me. I was way more nervous to take that test than the CPA exam.
Really?
Oh yeah, because if I failed, I would be failing as the incoming president instead of
True.
CPA. I could have just...
Also, fun fact, I don't think anybody who's been president has been a CCP, because it's kind of like if you're already at the top of your game, you don't need to go back and do that. But John wanted to show his support for it by doing it, but it was pretty risky.
It was pretty risky. And so, yeah, we've been... It's an amazing exam that you take. A lot of work goes into it, studying all about animals and milk and cheese making and science and food safety and international commerce. It's pretty intense, and there's amazing cheesemongers that kind of paved the way for us to be able to do this, and so it's an honor that I got to take the test and be a part of it.
So what makes a truly great cheesemonger? What do you think it is that makes someone the expert that you want to go to learn about your cheese?
That's a very cultural question, because a cheesemonger throughout the world is going to be slightly different. We all sell cheese, but we all approach it differently. The best example that I can share with that is Kendall and I got to both intern at Neal's Yard Dairy in the UK, and it's one of the most premier cheese shops in the world. They have 2 locations in London, and then they distribute around the world. And so we're friends with the owners, and we asked, this was 2014, so it was just 4 years in, and we asked if we could come and visit, and they're like, yeah. And they're like, why don't you spend a little time at the case helping customers? And both times, when Kendall was there her day and when I was there, basically their team walked off and had a meeting while Kendall and I were behind the counter, and it was just us, cheesemongering and running the register and doing all this other stuff. And we both shared the story with each other, and word got back to the owner, who was our friend, that our approach was very as they put it, American. And so Kendall and I approach selling cheese very socially. We are your tour guide. We want to take you on a journey that's best for your taste buds. So we ask you questions about, like, what do you like? What do you not like? What are you using it for? We give samples. And if somebody's walking out, like sometimes somebody comes in and they're about to leave when we're helping another customer, we'll yell after them. Every customer counts. And so I was doing that during the day. I'd be like, come on back, we're almost ready for you. And
step right up. Who wants a piece of cheese?
So for those cheesemongers in Britain and England, it was very much, here's what it tastes like.
You want it or not?
It comes from this farm and it's this milk type, and it's more about the science. And for Kendall and I and our team, it's more about the story of how it came to be. So is it named after one of the animals on the farm, or is it that there's a long family history that goes into the product? So cheesemongering comes in different flavors. For us, what works best is the storytelling, kind of painting a picture around the product and really creating customer preference around that.
So being a CPA and a CCP, how do those things intersect together? Because it's a very different, at least from face value, a very different type of profession. Yeah,
my brain likes all of it. One of the things that I love about what we do is that it's science, it's math, it's art, it's psychology. There's so many different aspects in this business that we have to think through. Being a CPA, I do more accounting now than I did at Deloitte, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
I am looking forward to when I don't have to do accounting every single day. But it's one of my skill sets and one of my gifts, so I can do it when needed. But staying in business this long would have been very difficult without that background, because it's, business is really a lot of math and accounting. You can tell great stories, but if you don't keep enough money to keep telling those stories, it doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, you got to manage the HR, how much you're using there. I'm sure figuring out tariffs right now has got to be kind of complicated.
It is. It's just one of those another challenge that we have to deal with.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, you mentioned the UK, going over there and spending some time at that cheese shop. Do you have a favorite travel memory involving cheese, or one that surprised you when it came to cheese? What's the craziest cheese?
The craziest cheese. The first memories that came to me, Kendall and I have been lucky. Part of that life partner visioning conversation that we had was back in 2011. And when we did that together, it was at first the idea, we didn't have a name for it or anything. I just basically locked us into a room. We just had bought the cheese house, so we were in a bit of debt. And Kendall, we were pregnant with our first child. The business was not profitable. We hadn't yet taken a day off, and we needed to get our stuff in order. We needed to at least have a kind of a direction to be kind of working towards. So we first thought it was going to be about creating a vision for the company. And what it ended up being was this remarkable experience that still resonates through our life. But we put your paper to the wall and put down all of our hopes and dreams and vulnerabilities, things that we had never told somebody, it's things that we just daydreamed, and we put them up there. And that's when we kind of aligned on some of the long-term goals that we shared. I got to understand what Kendall wanted to get out of the next 20 years, and she understood what I wanted to get out of the next 20 years. And we agreed on how many kids we wanted to have, if we were in control of that, which we've been blessed and lucky. But part of that came with this notion that throughout the entire sheet, which we still have, her dad wasn't included, and he had passed away before I ever met him, and the kids were never going to meet him. And so I asked Kendall if there was any non-material thing that she would like to what would she want to pass down from him to our kids? Like, that's really, what's the legacy? And it took a while, a couple hours, but Kendall eventually came to,
You wouldn't let me out of the room until I thought of something.
That's right. And it was cultural appreciation and a love for travel. And so we had to sit down and think about, okay, how do you measure that? Like, what does that mean for us to be successful or not successful within that? And so we agreed that, as soon as our two kids were born, we would then go live abroad for 30 days every other year. That was the agreement that we made. And so
Which, by the way, we haven't had a day off. I was like, it's impossible. And John was like, write it down. Like, we can't shoot for it if we don't write it down.
And we can't say it's important if we don't write it down. And 8 months after our daughter was born, I was standing in the galley of an airplane, rocking her for 8 straight hours as we flew to England. And we've done it. So we've England, New Zealand, Spain, France, Greece, Italy. We've gotten to travel a lot for cheese. I would say Bra, Italy was a magnificent trip. I got to speak there. It's when I was president of the American Cheese Society. It's a world's largest cheese festival, and it was amazing. But New Zealand popped to mind. We RV'd with the kids to...
He judged the New Zealand Champions of Cheese contest, and then we RV'd around.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories was little cheesemaker there, Arawa. It was beautiful couple that had been together for ever.
And Aura means love in the Maori language, and they were goat farmers and goat cheese makers. Their cheese had just taken the best cheese award, which was they beat all the big folks and the industrial folks. We wanted to buy their cheese, and it was already all allotted. You couldn't get any. There's a different story on that. They gifted us one. Y'all, we carried it around every single day to bring home to people. We left it in the
last Airbnb.
The last Airbnb. A month we carried that. I'm sorry, just yelling. But they exemplified love, and
they just they loved each other deeply, and they loved what they did, and
our kids ran into their arms, and there's like scenes of us frolicking with the goats, and they're just holding our kids.
It was wonderful.
Can we go have a
So
date
we've
now?
been blessed with the types of experiences that we've gotten to have, and it's 7 floors below in the Roquefort caves, having bites of blue cheese with the owners. There's special memories that we've gotten to have because of this experience, this world that we get to live in. It's pretty amazing.
So going back to the actual store, this is a question for either of you. What's the hottest cheese right now? What are you guys selling a lot of? What are customers coming in and asking for?
The hottest cheese. Oh my gosh, you got to come in and chat with our cheesemongers. They've got their hand in the case every day. Kendall and I now run a business, so oftentimes we're trying to make sure that payroll runs and we have the right health insurance and rent
nowadays.
Is going. Like, we have the livelihood of all of them. Our cheesemongers that are in the store are on top of what's tasting great today. So when we first envisioned this concept, I was trying to learn cheese, and there was no place to do that in Austin. And so what we tried to create is what I would have wanted in that time frame. So you can come in, you can taste everything in the shop, learn about it, ask questions, buy or not buy. It's not, you don't have to. And then with our events, now we get to really show this big wide breadth of what is possible in cheese. And Kendall and I select all of the menus for the events program. We select all the menus for our trays. But I for sure, when it's coming down to your party and you need to have it right, and you're going to buy from retail, go to our cheesemongers, ask them what's tasting great today. And
I will say that the hottest cheese year in and year out, one of them is June's Joy. It's made here locally by Pure Luck Farm and Dairy in Dripping Springs. They are one of the most awarded goat's cheese milk producers in the United States, Amelia Sweetheart. And you can only buy them from us, one other purveyor, or from them directly at the farmer's market. Or if it's from anywhere else, they've gotten it from one of the 3 of us. And so it's a very limited supply, but it's just some of the best goat's milk cheese. People will say, I don't even like goat's milk cheese, but I love this cheese. And so the one I would recommend is their June's Joy. It's a fresh chev, and it's seasoned with honey, black pepper, and thyme, and named after their kiddo. So
my son Oliver will be in for that.
Yes.
I'm sure. I'll take him this
Come
weekend.
get a taste.
Come on, Oliver. We got you.
He loves goat cheese. Okay, a couple other questions for you. If you could open a second Antonellis anywhere in the world, you've talked about some of the culture and the experience and the fun.
30.
Well, true, but outside of Austin, if you could move it anywhere else, where would it be and why?
Oh.
Well, we have something weird. Our kids are, this is not answering your question. Our kids are not allowed to inherit this business.
Okay.
So if they want to build something, we want them to build it themselves. We also don't want to, we know the ins and outs and how challenging it can be. So they'll always have the Antonellis and cheese in their background and history and name, and get to say they worked it every freaking holiday season with us and didn't have Christmas like other people, or the holiday season. But so there will be a sunset for us at some point, and a next owner and a next life to it, and someday. So then we say we want to go travel and live in different parts of the world. Part of our retirement is writing rom-coms on the beaches, but it's so hard because every time we travel, we don't say, well, we'll see you again, because there's so much of the world to discover. That I don't know that we'll ever visit a place twice. And back to what John said about my dad's legacy, it's specifically my love of people and my empathy for other people comes because I've seen and gotten to see how many people live, which comes from traveling. So, for instance, my dad trekked the Himalayas regularly and helped build one of the world's highest dental clinics in Namche in the Himalayas. I trekked it with him when I was 6. We just, a couple years ago on the 20th anniversary of his death, we went and trekked in his footsteps, or we trekked the Everest Base Camp Trail with our kids who were 8 and 10 at the time. And we hiked 8 hours a day. We scattered his ashes. So anyway, those kinds of experiences are what we're looking for. Okay, all that is to say, where would we open again? The first place we said we want to go back to pretty quickly and live was Crete. We loved Crete. So I don't know about us opening a cheese shop in Crete. I would just love to go live in Crete.
It's a very small country, is it?
Yeah, well, it's an island, but they said it doesn't really have, you don't get to call it an island because it's really big. It's a big island.
It's magnificent.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But we don't want to tell all y'all that. Y'all just keep going to Santorini and we'll take Crete.
I was, my top 2 would have been Annecy and Crete and Hania. But Annecy already has 100 cheese shops, so it'd be a fact.
Yeah. Can we just go live somewhere and not open a cheese shop?
Maybe we can just visit a cheese shop in Annecy.
What's the craziest milk people have made cheese with? What's the wildest cheese you can think
we've
of?
had knack cheese.
Human milk.
Yeah, that's
Somebody
true.
has done that.
Human milk?
Yeah, breast. I mean, it's illegal, but they can make it themselves and eat it. It was like in the New York Times when we right around when we were kids. Yeah.
So that would be the answer.
And then you were going to say gnat?
Well, in Nepal, we ordered yak cheese and we got laughed at because we found out a yak is a male, knack with an N is a female. But so yeah, knack cheese is regular there. We've had camel cheese. That's a big thing coming up in Australia now. I've never had horse cheese yet.
Or reindeer. Those will be good.
Yeah, any mammal, the like, meet the fuckers a little if you can milk it. Yes.
You can milk it. Okay, now we're going to turn to Austin as we kind of think about this. What's your favorite under the radar spot for a date night? You two, I know you're busy. You don't get to go out as much. You're probably busy running the business. What's hot? Where are you going in Austin?
Oh, but don't ask us what's hot because we work.
What's hot for you two?
Therefore, not under the radar.
I mean, what I will say is the first 2 places since we opened our business that if we get a random date night, we will go was Alamo Drafthouse, and it's because we can't talk shop. Like if you're in a movie. It's like when you first have kids, for anybody who's had kids out there, you go out and you're like, we need a night out. And you get out and you're like, we're not allowed to talk about the kids. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, Sophie did this today. And you're like, wait, don't talk about that. So we realized we couldn't talk work while we were at the movies. And so we always got good customer service and loved Alamo Drafthouse. And then the other one was always Uchiko, or Uchi, but Uchiko's around from our house. And it just would transport us in customer service. So
at the sushi bar.
Yes.
Not at the table.
Yeah, specifically
they would talk to us and like keep us away from work. They knew that was kind of what we were doing.
So those are 2. I don't know if they're not the newest, hottest thing. They've also shown some serious staying power, even with challenges and growth and business ownership transition. So if we still get a date night, those are kind of 2 of our regulars, honestly.
Right, I would say.
So when we chatted before we got on the show, I asked you your favorite or first Austin memory, and Eeyore's birthday came up.
Heck yeah.
Tell me about that. Have you gone back since? You went once, never been, or did you go every year?
We stumbled upon it.
We went back a second time as volunteers. We volunteered to sell slices of pizza.
Raising money for
American. Was it American Gateways? The very first time we were driving down Lamar, and we just saw a horde of people carrying beer.
And drums
on the sidewalk, and we're like, okay. So we turned around, went home, got on a bus, and went down, and we're like, what is going on here? And it was amazing. It was so much fun.
I don't remember if I kept my shirt on or not, but we were like, this is Austin.
It was amazing. And then the next year was, or a couple of years later, we were selling slices of pizza to raise money, and so we were there and part of the environment. But we haven't gone back since we've had kids, and
I don't know what it's like today, but if you haven't been, I would say just go for a very quintessential
slice of Austin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, you've been in Austin since 2005. You've had your business since 2010. What's one weird thing about Austin that's still around, or what do you want to keep? What keeps Austin weird in your mind?
When I think about Austin and like the time frame of it all, it's like, it's not necessarily that it's weird, but it fits each part of our life really well. That's really special to say. It's not like a city that's just for young professionals. It's not just a city for retirees. It's got this really amazing blend. And what we found over the years is that every time we have a shift in life, right, Austin shifts with us. Whether it was intending to or not, it just shifts with us and allows us to be great versions of ourselves. And so I don't know if that's weird. I love what Austin brings to the table across the board. I love the hole in the wall restaurants that we get to go to, get to find these, we went to Skylark Lounge for the first time 2 weeks ago, right before it closed. Right. And you're like, wow, that's crazy. And that kind of stuff will live on in memories, and that's what's pretty powerful.
I think what I love most about Austin too is that it's, for as much as everybody complains about it, it's still a big town or little city. Like compared to other places, nowhere else so far is like it. And yes, if we don't put certain things in place, will that be preserved or not? But right now it's still a whole lot going on in a small compact area. For anybody who knows Antonellis cheese, they say, oh my gosh, you guys are everywhere. And then I'm like, well, it's only maybe 1% of the population of Austin that knows that or is visiting us each year. Not even 1% of the population visits us each year. Just for the record, it's really hard to stay in cheese business.
Well, let's get to 1% this next year. Let's make it
happen. There's just so many people, and yes, we need better infrastructure and solving this and solving that. But I still love, and in the old days, we could get into downtown in like 4 minutes from our house or across the river. Now that doesn't exist. At the same time, it's still crazy to me that all this is just right there or right across the river, or you can go here or this, and each neighborhood still has its vibe. And I would like to see some protections for small independent businesses. Somebody was like, you should open on South Congress. And I was like, that's adorable.
Impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah. I'm not anti-growth, anti-capitalism, anti-business, but I think if we don't put some protections in place, it gets harder for smaller businesses to stay around.
So I think in that same vein, if you could name the next era of Austin, what you want the future of Austin to look like, what would you call it and why? What do you think Austin's going to look like in a decade?
The experience era. I think that we're going to be moving into where value is driven by the experiences that people receive versus just the product that gets delivered. And so I think hopefully that's where we end up.
Yeah.
You're well positioned for that.
Well, that's a part of our strategy.
Where else can you do a cheesy boat cruise and have cheese and bubbles on a boat with bat guano pooping on you?
It's very rare. It's very rare.
So, I'm just saying, we do cheesy boat cruises. If anybody wants to join us, we now know don't put your tongue out under the bats, but it's fine.
Guano, you pay extra to have that.
Yeah, guano facials.
In your facial.
Yeah, they should pay us $100 extra.
Yeah, I know. I'm not in for that, but I'm in for the cheese. So, you talked a little bit about kids growing up. You've got kids that I think are both middle schoolers now. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be their business. You're going to make them be entrepreneurs in their own right?
If they
decide to go that direction.
Or don't be.
Yeah, or not.
Very cool.
But what's the future look like for you guys? What does Antonellis look like? You talked about, someday maybe there'll be new owners. There's new something. What do you envision your future in Austin?
Well, I think the part that's no secret to us, or we talk about regularly, is when our kids are 18 and we say go to college, and I put air quotes on that because it's like, oh, whatever the kids are doing these days, or if they're taking a gap year or whatever it is. But our kids know when they turn 18, we're hitting the road for a little bit. And so we want the business to be, whether we're silent partners or on the road partners, in a place that's stable enough. And really, we have an amazing team where we're leaving for a month now to go to Ireland and write some articles on Irish cheese and travel. But we want the business to be in a place where it doesn't need us, and we can take off and go find entrepreneurially what we want to itch next. Part of that really is life partner visioning. We've had a lot of couples ask us for it. To be clear, it is not couples therapy. You have to be in a really good spot already to come into life partner visioning, because we're not there to solve problems. It's there to grow together in a vulnerable space. So we want to share that. We wrote a book Again, be specific about your goals, people. I wrote a goal down that said write a book. So I wrote a book. It didn't say publish a book. So I just, stopped at that step. So, when we're ready, we'll reprise that. But yeah, I think for us, there's no secret that when the kids are 18 is kind of our next inflection point in life and moving on. We always say we like to have a vision of what that looks like, but life happens. Parents, we're at an age where, some of our family members are not in the best health. Fortunately, most of them are. But we know that life will throw us some curveballs along the way. So I think that's also, there's some beauty in the journey there. But I think that's where I'll leave it. What about you, John?
Yeah, our mission, Kendall and my mission, is to spread joy. So if we're doing that through cheese, great. If we're doing that in another way, great. That's really where we're headed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kendall and John. Thank you for showing us what it means to build something beautiful with purpose, partnership, and a love of community. And from your earliest cheese boards to your wholesale clients, to your customers, to your virtual tastings, and a city that's growing right alongside you, you've helped define what Austin business means. So to our listeners, if you've ever celebrated with a cheese board, supported a small shop, or watched your neighborhood grow, we hope this conversation helped you reflect on your role in shaping Austin's next era. Thanks for tuning in to Austin Eras.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.